really give it that three-dimensional form. So the first thing I'm going to go ahead and do is let's go ahead and select this eye that we've gone ahead and detailed. I'm going to go ahead and Alt drag out a copy of that, and we'll just go ahead and set that over here. And let's come up to Object, Transform, and we'll choose Reflect here. I'm going to go ahead and reflect that along a vertical axis here. And this is going to be sort of our little secret as far as duplicating this eye and reusing these vectors that we've already created here. Now, we've got those in about the right spot. I'm going to go ahead and tweak those a little bit here, getting those kind of lined up right with that, that left eye, or her right eye rather. Now, here's the real trick. Let me just hit Tab. These two eyes aren't perfectly even. She's got her head at a little bit of an angle, so we're going to need to kind of match these eyes up as best as we can. We may even have to rotate this eye just a little bit here. Let me mouse over there, and we'll rotate it just a hair. And it's even a possibility that these two eyes aren't even exactly 100% the exact same size. So let's go ahead and jump out of outline mode here and kind of see how we've done. That looks pretty close. I may have to come in and tweak those a little bit in between lessons, but now the real challenge in duplicating this eye is the highlights and the shadows aren't going to be exactly the same. So we need to probably reevaluate those different highlights and shadows based on this new eye's position on her face. But for right now, that'll work. Let's go ahead and proceed on and focus on kind of these shadows around our character's face here. So if we go and jump back into outline mode, let me go ahead and bring our layers panel back. And let's go ahead and just hide this head layer. And we can see here that we've got some real definitive shadows kind of around on her left side of her face that really kind of define really where that cheekbone is. But those shadows also come up here and kind of swoop into the eye socket right here. So as a matter of fact, there's a real subtle shadow that's being cast by the hair right underneath the hairline here. So I tell you what, let's go ahead and create that shadow first here. I'm going to go ahead and grab my pencil tool. And let's go ahead and just zoom out just a little bit here so I can see what's going on. All right, great. So let's go ahead and start by just kind of bringing in a shape right over here. And I'm going to go ahead and bring that in and kind of around just sort of like that. I'm going to kind of bring it into the eye socket and around into the other eye socket and back in and around. We'll just kind of terminate that over near where we started. All right, great. That looks pretty good. I want to come in and smooth that out just a little bit here in some of these areas. Maybe bring those anchor points up a little bit and off the eyelid. You can kind of see here the shadow on the inside of her eye socket between the eye and the nose that's kind of being trapped right here. And grab our pencil tool so we can smooth some stuff out again. Maybe grab some of these anchor points over around her right eye. Just kind of modeling this out so that it looks like it's fitting kind of the shape of this shadow. All right, that looks pretty good for right now. So let's go ahead and jump out of outline mode. We'll grab our shape here, and let's go ahead and think about applying a gradient to this. Let's go ahead and grab a linear gradient here. And let's go ahead and position that so that the darkest portion is up at the top here. Go ahead and reverse that. And let's go ahead and set this to multiply. All right, so we've got a pretty dark color right there as of right now. And you can see here kind of the subtle effect of that gradient. Let me go ahead and bring this down a little bit more so it has a little bit more of a effect on the shape. And let's go ahead and adjust the color of this color stop so we're not using a complete black. Shadows aren't black and highlights aren't white. They're different colors based on the light source. So now it's probably a good opportunity to think about what type of light source. If we're dealing with an indoor lighting, maybe a cooler light like a fluorescent, for example, that type of light is going to produce a cool light, which as a result the shadows are going to be warmer. So let's go ahead and give this a little bit of a warmer tone to the shadow here. Go ahead and grab our HSB sliders. There we go. And let's go ahead and swing this over. we'll saturate that up. Shadows are pretty saturated for the most part. Give that a little bit of a warmer color. Let's see how that looks. All right, great. So I'm going to go ahead and take a break from this area up in here. Now, we're probably going to need to create yet another shape here. I'm going to take an opportunity between lessons to just kind of fiddle with this shape a little bit and these anchor points and get them exactly where I want. Let's go ahead and shift our attention now to kind of this area right here. This area right here seems really far projected in front of a character. It feels like this eye socket isn't really recessed in like it should be. So I tell you what, let's go ahead and maybe think about creating a shape here that we can apply a gradient to. We'll just go ahead and grab our pencil tool at this point, and we'll zoom in on her face. And I'm going to draw in sort of an elliptical shape right here. Sort of like that. I may smooth that back a little bit away from her nostril. And I think for the most part that looks pretty good. If anything, I may need to bring this edge of this shape up just a little bit. So let's see if we can smooth that up into position here. Maybe we can use our anchor points and our Bezier handles to adjust this shape just a little bit. We'll just pull those those Beziers in just a little bit here. Trying to get this shape up a little bit off of her cheekbone. There we go. That looks pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and grab this shape at this point. And I tell you what, let's go ahead and use our eyedropper tool, and we'll sample one of these shapes right here that we created on the side of her nose. So let me go ahead and just sample maybe this shape right here. See if I can't zoom in a little bit and maybe sample that. There we go. Now let's put a radial gradient on this, and I actually don't want that. Let's go ahead and switch that over to a linear gradient. And we'll grab our gradient tool with G on our keyboard. Let's redraw that sort of like this. Bring that in, maybe something right about there. Now obviously this is probably not going to work because this shape's the topmost shape. So let's go ahead and send this to the back and then slowly begin bringing it forward. We'll grab our gradient tool again here, maybe rotate this around some more. All right, that's looking pretty good. So we've got kind of that initial shape made for her eye socket here. Now I may need to actually play with that gradient just a little bit more here to kind of bring that up so that we're not getting too much of that over here on what's going to be her cheekbone. I don't want to see the line of this shape right in here. But what I would like to do here is go ahead and come in and select both this shape and this shape here, and kind of look at that edge between them. We've got kind of an overlap here. As a matter of fact, I'm going to go ahead and grab this shape, and let's go ahead and see if we can't pull this part of the path a little bit to the left. There we go. And with that done, let's go ahead and think about trimming this shape that we've just created based on this shape on the nose. So we'll go ahead and copy this shape right here, and then we'll shift select both of them here, and let's go ahead and subtract the nose shape, the shape that's in front from the new shape behind, using this minus front shape mode. Sort of like that. Then we'll go ahead and hit Control F to paste that back in, and we've kind of trimmed that shape back just a little bit. Now, I'd like to go ahead and do the exact same thing for the other eye socket here, so let's go ahead and just draw in another elliptical shape here. We'll come in and just draw that in sort of like this. And let's try that one more time. There we go. That looks pretty good. We'll go ahead and smooth that out. Now again, we're going to need to bring that up some, because if you remember here on this other side, we brought it up a little bit off her cheekbone. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my direct selection tool and modify this shape a little. Just sort of like that. Maybe even use my pen tool to get rid of one of those anchor points. Alright, that's looking pretty good. I may actually come in and simplify this a little bit more. Let's go ahead and grab that pen tool again and get rid of one of those anchor points down there. And if we look over here, we're getting pretty close to the same shape. Just kind of nudging these anchor points around. Now we could have always duplicated that first shape that we created, but the two shapes on either side of the nose aren't exactly the same, so that wouldn't have fit exactly perfect. So let's go ahead and grab our eyedropper tool and sample that same gradient here. And we'll come in and redraw that based on this new eye socket. There we go. Rotate that around a little bit. And let's go ahead and send that to the back, all the way to the back with a Control-Shift open bracket, and then Control close bracket once to bring it forward a step. And if we go ahead and click off of that, hopefully that gradient's lined up pretty well. We may need to come in and adjust that because you can still see that line just a little bit there. So let's go ahead and maybe shrink that gradient back just a little bit so we don't see that little line. And while we're at it, let's go ahead and do the same thing over here. Maybe even rotate that some. There we go. That's looking pretty good. So we've kind of taken the initial steps as to defining where her eye sockets are, but we still got quite a bit of shadows left to do here. We've actually even started planning out where this cast shadow from her hair is going to be. So in the next lesson, I'd like to pick up where we leave off here and continue building these shadows around our character's face.